The world ends in total darkness. It ends not with a scream, but with the sudden, crushing expulsion of air from your lungs. There is a noise, a roar so loud it transcends sound and becomes a physical vibration in your marrow, and then the roof comes down. The heavy oak beams snap with the violence of thunderclaps, and the ceiling tiles, thousands of pounds of fired clay, shatter against the floor you have spent weeks preparing. You are thrown forward, your face hits the wet mortar, the grit fills your mouth. You try to inhale, but there is no air, only a thick, choking cloud of pulverized limestone and dust. A weight, impossible and massive, pins your legs, then your waist. You are being squeezed, the life pressed out of you by the very villa you were hired to beautify. The panic flares, hot and white in your chest, but you cannot move. You cannot see. You can only feel the wet, alkaline slime of the floor against your cheek and the crushing weight of the mountain that has just come through the wall. You are buried alive. Welcome to the simulation. This is a story of craft, of patience, and of the terrifying indifference of nature. We are going to experience the slow, claustrophobic reality of a disaster from the inside out. If you wish to survive the history that others have forgotten, please subscribe to the channel. Now, close your eyes. Let the darkness recede. Let us go back to the hours before the stone fell. You are kneeling on the hard, unforgiving ground, your weight resting on pads of thick wool that have long since been flattened by the hours of labor. The air in the room is heavy, saturated with moisture that clings to your skin like a second, unwanted layer. You are in the triclinium, the grand dining room of a villa perched high in the Apennine Hills, miles from the nearest city. It is early afternoon, but the light is failing, strangled by a ceiling of bruise-colored clouds that have been gathering since dawn. The room is a skeleton of what it will become. The walls are plastered but unpainted, smelling of wet earth and river sand. The furniture is absent. There is only the floor, the vast, empty expanse of the floor, and you. You are the master tessellarius, the layer of mosaics, and this empty rectangle of gray mud is your canvas, your battlefield, and your burden. Your hand grips the handle of your trowel, the wood worn smooth and dark by the oils of your palm and years of friction. You are currently laying the nucleus, the final layer of fine mortar that will hold the tesserae stones. This is not the glamorous part of the work. There was no color yet, no intricate geometric patterns to dazzle the eye of the wealthy dominus who owns this estate. There is only the gray sludge of lime and marble dust. It must be perfect. If the nucleus is uneven, the floor will ripple. If it is too dry, the stones will not bond. If it is too wet, they will sink and vanish. You work with a rhythmic, hypnotic motion. You scoop a mound of the thick, viscous mixture from the wooden bucket at your side. The smell is sharp, acrid, and chemical, the smell of burnt limestone slaked with water. It stings the inside of your nose, a scent that you have carried in your pores since you were an apprentice boy in Capua. You slap the mortar onto the subfloor. It lands with a wet thwack, a sound that echoes flatly in the empty, high-ceilinged room. With the flat edge of the trowel, you spread it. The motion is sweeping and precise, coming from the shoulder, not the wrist. You watch the gray paste smooth out, covering the coarser aggregate beneath. You are erasing the roughness of the world, creating a plane of absolute, unnatural flatness. Shk, shk, shk. The metal scrapes against the grit, a dry, abrasive whisper that is the only conversation you have had for hours. Your apprentices, Lucius and Garo, are working in the corners, mixing the next batch, their movements silent and subdued. The atmosphere today is strange. Usually there is banter, the crude jokes of laborers, the humming of a tune. Today there is only the sound of metal on stone and the low, distant rumble of the sky. You pause to wipe the sweat from your forehead with the back of your wrist, careful not to get the corrosive lime into your eyes. The humidity is oppressive. It is not the heat of the summer sun. It is a stagnant, heavy warmth that seems to press in on your eardrums. You look out through the large open doorway that leads to the peristyle garden. The columns stand stark and white against the gloom. The garden itself, usually vibrant with manicured hedges and flowing fountains, looks dull and drained of color. The leaves of the bay laurel trees are hanging limp, motionless. There is no wind. The birds, usually noisy scavengers around the worksite, are gone. The silence of the mountain is profound, broken only by that intermittent, low-frequency growl of thunder that seems to roll through the ground rather than the air. It makes the water in your bucket tremble, sending tiny concentric rings rippling across the surface. You return to the work. You cannot afford to be distracted by the weather. The lime waits for no man. As it begins to cure, it heats up, a chemical reaction that you can feel radiating through the soles of your sandals. You must smooth this section before it sets. You lean forward, extending your reach. Your back aches, a dull, throbbing line of pain running down your spine, a familiar companion to your trade. You ignore it. You focus on the gray. You look for imperfections, for tiny air bubbles, for ridges left by the tool. You slice them away. You are seeking a surface as smooth as still water. This is the meditation of the craftsman. The world narrows down to the square foot of mortar directly in front of you. The anxiety about the storm, the ache in your joints, the hunger in your belly, it all recedes behind the wall of focus. There is only the trowel, the lime, and the perfect level. But the unease lingers. It is a primal instinct, something buried deep in the lizard brain that reacts to the drop in barometric pressure. You feel a tightness in your chest. You stand up to stretch, your knees popping loudly in the quiet room. You walk to the edge of the triclinium to check the level lines you have strung across the room. The taut strings hover mere millimeters above the wet mortar, a guide for the flatness. You crouch down, squinting one eye, looking along the line. It is perfect. A flat horizon in a chaotic world. You nod to yourself, satisfied. You look over at Lucius. He is stirring a large vat of mortar, his face pale and streaked with gray dust. He looks up at you, and you see the fear in his eyes. He feels it too, the waiting, the impending violence of the sky. He doesn't speak, just grips his mixing paddle tighter, his knuckles white. You walk to the bucket of water to clean your trowel. You plunge the metal into the dark liquid, swirling it around. The water turns cloudy. You pull the tool out and wipe it with a rag. The steel gleams dully in the low light. You need more lime. You signal to Garo. He brings a fresh hod of the mixture, dumping it onto your working area. The fresh mortar steams slightly in the damp air. You can smell the earth in it. This villa is built into the side of a steep hill, cut into the landscape. The materials you are using, the stone, the sand, the lime, are all harvested from this same earth. You are rearranging the mountain, imposing order on it. But today the mountain feels resentful. You can feel the weight of the slope rising up behind the back wall of the room. Tons of soil, rock, and ancient trees hanging there, suspended by friction and gravity. You kneel again. The dampness of the floor seeps through the wool pads, chilling your knees even as the sweat runs down your back. You pick up the trowel. Shk, shk. The rhythm resumes. You are spreading the bed for the emblema, the central panel of the mosaic. This is where the finest work will go. The mortar here must be even finer, sifted through a tighter mesh. You work the paste, folding it over itself, eliminating every lump. It is satisfying, this tactile manipulation of matter. You watch the texture change from rough to sleek. You are a creator. You are preparing the foundation for art that will last for centuries, or so you believe. You imagine the guests who will recline here, eating grapes and drinking wine, admiring the intricate patterns you haven't laid yet. They will never think of the man who knelt here in the gloom, smoothing the gray mud while the storm gathered. They will never know your name. You are a ghost in the making. Outside, the first drops of rain begin to fall. They are heavy, fat drops that strike the terracotta roof tiles with the force of pebbles. Tap, tap, tap. The sound is loud in the silence. Then the heavens open. The rain comes down in a sheet, a vertical ocean washing over the villa.
The sound amplifies instantly to a deafening roar. The light in the room drops further, plunging you into a twilight gloom. You shout at Lucius to light the oil lamps. He scrambles to the corner, striking flint against steel. The sparks fly, brief and orange, before the wick catches. The flame flickers, casting long, dancing shadows that stretch and warp across the wet floor. The smell of burning olive oil mixes with the sharp scent of the lime and the fresh ozone smell of the rain. The water starts to encroach. The villa is not finished. The drainage systems are not yet fully operational. You see a dark stain spreading from the doorway, water seeping in under the threshold. It creeps across the limestone border you laid yesterday. You curse under your breath. Water is the enemy of fresh work. If it washes over the nucleus before it sets, it will separate the lime from the sand, ruining the bond. You grab a sack of dry sand and rush to the door, pouring it in a line to create a dam. The sand sucks up the water, turning dark brown. You stand there for a moment, watching the rain hammer the courtyard. The gutters are overflowing. The gargoyles are vomiting torrents of water. The ground outside is turning into soup. You can see the mud flowing down the garden paths, carrying twigs and debris. You return to the center of the room. The air is cooling rapidly. The sweat on your skin turns cold and clammy. You shiver. The lamps flicker as a draft sweeps through the room. The shadows jump, making the walls seem to breathe. You feel isolated, cut off from the rest of the world. The road down to the valley will be a river of mud by now. There is no leaving. You are trapped here with the work. You look at the patch of mortar you are smoothing. It is waiting. You pick up the trowel again. The work must continue. The Dominus expects progress, storm or no storm. You press the steel into the gray paste, resuming the endless cycle. Shh, shh. The thunder cracks again, closer this time, directly overhead. The boom shakes the dust from the rafters. A fine powder drifts down, settling on your wet mortar like snow. You sigh and smooth it over, burying the dust and the lime. You are tired. Your shoulders burn. Your fingers are cramping around the handle. But you find a strange comfort in the repetition. In a world that is becoming loud and chaotic, the motion of the trowel is simple. It is controllable. You can make this 1 square foot of earth smooth. You can impose your will on this small patch of reality. You focus on the gray. You lose yourself in the gray. But the ground is not still. You feel it through your knees first, a subtle vibration distinct from the thunder. It is a grinding sensation, deep below the foundation. The water in your cleaning bucket is sloshing violently now. The oil lamps are swinging on their chains, sending the shadows spinning wildly around the room. You stop working. You look up at the ceiling. The heavy timber beams are groaning, a low, tortured sound of wood under extreme stress. Dust is pouring down now, not just a drift, but a stream. Lucius and Garrow have stopped working. They are standing in the center of the room, looking at you, their eyes wide and white in the gloom. The roar of the rain is joined by a new sound, a sucking, tearing noise coming from the hillside above the villa. It sounds like the earth is tearing itself apart. You stand up, the trowel falling from your hand. It hits the wet floor with a dull thud. The smell of the lime is overpowered by a new scent, the smell of raw, wet earth and pine resin, the smell of a forest being uprooted. The vibration builds. It is no longer a tremor, it is a convulsion. The floor pitches beneath your feet. You stumble, putting a hand out to the wall to steady yourself. The plaster is cold and wet. You feel the wall moving, shifting away from your palm. The geometric perfection of the room is distorting. The square angles are twisting. The doorway is no longer a rectangle.
Then the sound changes. The roar becomes a scream of metal and stone. You look toward the back wall, the wall that sits against the hillside. You see the hairline cracks appearing in the plaster, spiderwebbing outward in slow motion. The cracks widen into fissures. Dust jets out of them.
The oil lamps are extinguished one by the rush of air, plunging the room into near darkness. You are back in the moment before the end. You realize with a detached, cold clarity that the drainage has failed, the mountain is saturated, the liquid earth is coming for you. You turn to shout, to tell the boys to run, but the sound dies in your throat as the wall explodes inward. The gray mortar you smoothed so carefully is the last thing you see before the wave of darkness swallows you whole. The silence of the stone has arrived. The dust has settled in your memory, returning you to the quiet, rhythmic hours before the collapse. You are back on your knees. The terror of the landslide is a future ghost. For now, there is only the wet gray canvas of the nucleus stretching out before you, waiting to be born. The lime mortar you smoothed is firming up, transitioning from a soup to a clay-like consistency. It is the perfect moment. If you wait too long, the crust will harden and the stones will not seat. If you start too soon, they will sink and vanish into the mire. You test the surface with the pad of your thumb. It yields slightly, leaving a shallow, precise print. It is ready. You reach for the wooden bowls arranged in a semicircle around your knees. These are your palette. They do not hold paint, but fragments of the earth itself, shattered and sorted by color. You run your hand through the first bowl. The sound is dry and clattering like the shifting of shingle on a beach. Hundreds of small cubic stones or tesserae clicking against one another. These are the teeth of the floor. You pull out a handful and let them trickle back through your fingers, inspecting the quality. This batch is Nero del Belgio, a deep absolute black marble quarried from the far north. It absorbs the dim light of the room, offering no reflection. It is heavy, dense, and sharp. You pick up your martellina, the mosaicist's hammer. It is a strange, balanced tool. One end a flat hammer, the other a sharp chisel-like pick. On a block of hardwood beside you sits the tagliolo, a steel wedge driven into the wood. This is your anvil. You select a piece of the black marble that is slightly too large for the intricate border you were about to lay. You hold the stone against the steel wedge and strike it with the hammer. Tink. The sound is high-pitched and precise, cutting through the low rumble of the thunder outside. The stone splits cleanly. You strike again. Tink. Now you have a perfect cube, roughly a centimeter on each side. The fractured face of the stone smells faintly of sulfur and crushed rock. You lean forward over the gray bed. You take the black cube between your thumb and forefinger. You do not just place it, you drive it. You press the stone down into the yielding lime, twisting it slightly as it enters. The mortar rises up around the edges of the cube, a microscopic lip of gray mud that will lock the stone in place forever as it cures. You push it down until it is level with the guide string. Then you pick up another. Split, grasp, press. And another. Split, grasp, press. The rhythm takes you. You are building a solid black line, a border that will frame the complex geometric meander of the emblema.
To your left, the bowl holds Giallo Antico, a rich, buttery yellow stone from Numidia. To your right, the stark, milky white of Carrara marble. These stones have traveled thousands of miles, carried on ox carts and ships, changing hands a dozen times just to end up here, in this damp hillside villa under your calloused thumb. You feel a strange intimacy with the material. You know the grain of the white marble is softer, more prone to shattering if you strike it wrong. You know the black basalt is unforgiving and brittle. You adjust your strike force instinctively, your muscles remembering the density of each geological era you are manipulating. The rain outside intensifies, shifting from a steady drum to a violent barrage. The sound on the roof tiles becomes a roar, drowning out the delicate tink-tink of your hammer. The air in the room grows cooler, the humidity spiking until the walls themselves seem to sweat. You wipe your brow with a rag that smells of linseed oil and old sweat. The smell of the wet lime is sharper now, mixing with the metallic tang of the ozone drifting in from the courtyard. You glance up at the open doorway. The rain is falling so hard it bounces off the paving stones of the peristyle, creating a mist that drifts into the room. The light is fading fast. You gesture to Lucius. He understands without a word.
He brings the oil lamps closer, setting them on the unfinished section of the floor. The flames struggle in the damp draft, flickering wildly. The light they cast is warm and yellow, turning the gray mortar into a landscape of golden peaks and valleys. The shadows of your hands become giants on the wall, mimicking your movements, huge dark spiders weaving a web of stone. The shifting light makes the work harder. You have to squint to see the guidelines. The depth perception is tricky in the gloom. You rely more on touch now, running your fingertips over the row of stones you just laid, checking for flushness. Your skin is the best level you have. You feel a sharp edge on one of the white stones. It is sitting too high. You tap it down with the wooden handle of the hammer. Thud. It settles. Perfect. You are starting the pattern now, a Greek key or meander, a continuous line that folds back on itself, symbolizing infinity and the eternal flow of life. It is a maze with no center. You switch between black and white stones, black for the line, white for the negative space. The logic of the pattern demands total concentration. 3 black, turn right. 3 black, turn right. 5 white, fill the gap. The mathematics of it is soothing. In the chaos of the storm, amidst the uncertainty of the shaking earth, the geometry is a constant. It cannot be argued with. It is truth in stone. You lose yourself in the counting. 1, 2, 3. Tink. 1, 2, 3. Press.
You pause to watch Garrow, the younger apprentice. He is working on the background fill, the tessellatum, which requires less precision. He is using larger, rougher white stones to fill the space between the wall and your intricate center panel. He is rushing. You can see it in his shoulders, the way he is hunched tight against the cold. He wants to be done. He wants to be by the fire in the slaves' quarters eating warm pottage. You watch him grab a handful of stones and shove them into the mortar without checking the fit. They are jumbled, the gaps between them too wide. The grout lines will be messy. The floor will be weak. You reach out and tap his shoulder. He flinches, dropping a stone. He looks at you, his eyes wide and fearful in the lamplight. You do not scold him. You do not speak. The thunder is too loud for whispering, and shouting ruins the focus. You simply reach over with your trowel and scrape out the last 10 stones he laid. You toss them back into the pile. You smooth the mortar back down, erasing his work. You look at him, then point to the single perfect line you have just finished, like this. You wait. He swallows hard, nods, and picks up a single stone. He places it carefully, then another. He slows down. You watch him for a moment longer, ensuring the rhythm has returned before going back to your own section. The dampness is seeping into your knees now, a dull ache that radiates up your thighs. The wool pads are soaked, likely from the water that is slowly pooling in the lower corners of the room. You can hear the dripping now inside the room. The roof is leaking. A dark spot appears on the plaster of the wall to your right, expanding like a bruise. Drip, drip, drip. It lands on the subfloor, mixing with the dust. It is a reminder of the decay that always gnaws at the edges of your work. You are building something meant to last forever, yet the water is already trying to reclaim it. You switch to the Rosso Antico. The red stone is for the center rosette of the design. It is harder than the marble, stubborn and dense. It resists the hammer. You have to strike it with force. Crack! A shard flies off and stings your cheek, drawing a tiny bead of blood. You ignore it. You wipe the blood away with the back of your hand, smearing it slightly on your cheekbone. The pain keeps you sharp. You fit the red shard into the center of the design. It looks like a drop of wine in a sea of milk. It is beautiful. For a second, the lamp flares, illuminating the red stone, and you feel a surge of pride. This floor will be magnificent. The Dominus will walk here in his silk robes. He will not know that your blood is mixed with the dust, that your sweat cured the lime. But the feeling of unease returns, crawling up your spine. The vibration in the floor is back. It is not the sudden jolt of an earthquake, but a low-frequency shudder, like a heavy wagon passing on a nearby road. But there is no road. There is only the steep, rain-lashed slope of the mountain.
You place your palm flat on the unfinished section of the floor. You can feel it. The earth is humming. It creates a strange sensation in the pit of your stomach, a kind of motion sickness while sitting still. The water in the cleaning bucket is trembling again, the surface breaking into a chaotic interference pattern.
Lucius stops working. He is looking at the bucket. He looks at you. The mountain is angry, his look seems to say. You shake your head, dismissing his fear, though you share it. You tap your hammer on the wood block. Get back to work. The deadline is real. The ghosts are not. You pick up a white stone. You try to focus on the edge, on the sharp, clean line of the fracture, but your hand is shaking, just a fraction, just enough that when you place the stone, it is slightly crooked. You stare at it, a tiny imperfection in the geometry, a flaw. You pry it out with the tip of your trowel. You throw it aside. You take a breath, inhaling the thick, moist air. It tastes of wet wool and impending violence. You try again. This time, the stone seats perfectly. You exhale. You are fighting the chaos with order, one stone at a time. The world outside may be dissolving into mud and fury, but in this square meter of lamplight, there is only the pattern. Black, white, red, tink, press, silence. The hours grind on. The pile of stones in the bowls grows smaller, while the mosaic expands, creeping across the gray mud like a rigid mineral fungus. You are lost in the trance of the craft. Your back screams in protest. Your knees are numb. Your fingers are raw from the rough stone, but your mind is drifting. You start to see the pattern when you blink. The Greek key burns in your retinas, glowing green against the darkness of your eyelids. You are becoming the floor. You are becoming stone. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows through the room, violent and cold. It extinguishes 2 of the 3 lamps instantly. The darkness rushes in, shrinking your world to a tiny circle of light around the last flickering wick. The shadows leap out from the corners. The sound of the rain seems to step closer, louder, more aggressive. And then you hear it, a sound distinct from the wind and the thunder. It is the sound of a tree snapping, not a branch, but a trunk, a massive, wet, tearing crack that echoes from the slope above the house. You freeze, your hand hovering over the bowl of black stones. The vibration on the floor spikes, a sudden jolt that knocks the standing lamp over. The flame spills onto the wet floor and dies with a hiss. Total darkness. For a moment, there is only the sound of your own breathing and the roar of the storm. You are blind. You reach out, fumbling for the flint, for a hand, for anything solid. Your fingers brush against the cold, wet, sharp edges of the tesserae you just laid. They feel like teeth in the dark. The mountain is knocking at the door, and you are just beginning to realize that it intends to come in.
The darkness that swallowed the room at the end of the last hour has not lifted. It has thickened, curdling into a heavy, suffocating gloom that defies the time of day. It should be mid-afternoon, the hour when the sun usually slants through the peristyle columns in warm, golden bars. Instead, the world outside has been erased by a wall of gray water, and the interior of the villa has been plunged into a premature night. You are kneeling in a void, the only reference points being the damp cold seeping through your tunic and the erratic, frantic drumming of the rain on the roof tiles. You fumble in the dark, your hands shaking, not from cold, but from a sudden sharp spike of adrenaline. You locate the flint and the steel striker. You strike them. Clack! A spark dies instantly in the humid air. Clack! Another spark, weak and fleeting. You curse silently, your breath visible as a faint ghost in the momentary flash. Finally, on the third strike, the spark catches the charred linen wick of the heavy bronze lamp. A small blue-orange flame splutters into life. It is a pitiful thing against the overwhelming dark, but it is enough. You shield it with your cupped hand, letting the flame grow, feeding on the olive oil in the reservoir. The smell of the burning oil is thick and greasy, a domestic scent that feels strangely out of place in this atmosphere of rising violence.
You move the lamp to the center of your work area, then light 2 more. The light does not reach the corners of the room. Instead, it creates a small island of visibility, a bubble of gold in a sea of shadow. The shadows are not still. They leap and twist against the plastered walls, agitated by the drafts that snake through the unsealed windows and the gaps in the door frames. The mosaic floor, wet with the moisture of the air and the lime, glimmers under the flickering light like the skin of a dark, sleeping reptile. You look at the work you have done. The geometric meander pattern is a stark black and white skeleton against the gray mud. In this lighting, the imperfections seem magnified. The ridges in the mortar throw long shadows. The slight unevenness of a tessera appears as a crater, but you cannot fix them now. The air in the room has changed. It is no longer just humid, it is saturated. You can feel the moisture collecting on your eyelashes, on the hair of your arms. The temperature has dropped sharply, plummeting with the arrival of the storm front. The sweat on your back, generated by the labor of the hammer and the anxiety of the deadline, has turned icy. You pull your rough wool tunic tighter around your shoulders, but the dampness is pervasive. It is in the stone, in the wood, in your bones. You hear a sound that raises the hair on your neck, a soft, persistent trickling. It is distinct from the roar of the rain on the roof. It is closer, intimate. You pick up one of the lamps, the bronze handle warm against your palm, and walk toward the double oak doors that lead to the internal courtyard. The light swings, revealing the wet sheen of the limestone threshold. There, seeping under the heavy wood, is a dark, spreading stain. Water. It is invading the sanctuary of the room. It moves with a slow, relentless purpose, following the microscopic valleys in the stone, seeking the lowest point. That lowest point is your fresh work.
Panic, cold and rational, sets in. You know the chemistry of your trade. The nucleus, that bed of lime and marble dust, is a living chemical reaction. It needs to cure slowly, releasing its moisture into the air. If it is flooded now, if raw water saturates the mix, the lime will leach out, the bond will fail. The stones you have spent hours placing will loosen and lift like loose teeth. The floor will be ruined. You set the lamp down on a dry crate and rush to the pile of aggregate sand in the corner. You grab a handful of the coarse material, the grains biting into your palm. You run back to the door and pour the sand in a line across the threshold, creating a miniature dike to hold back the tide. You run back and forth, a desperate shuttle in the gloom. Handful after handful, you build a barrier of sand, packing it down with your fist. The sand turns dark immediately as it drinks the incoming water. It holds for a moment, then the water begins to bleed through, turning the barrier into a sludge. The pressure from outside is too great. The courtyard is flooding. The drains, likely clogged with leaves and debris from the neglected autumn maintenance, have failed. The water is pooling against the house, rising until it finds a way in. You grab a discarded piece of roof tile and use it as a scoop, digging a small trench in the mud of the subfloor to divert the water away from the mosaic and toward the unfinished edge of the room. It is a losing battle. The water is relentless, indifferent to your panic. It creates small rivulets that look like black veins spreading across the floor. You stop. You stand up, your chest heaving, your hands coated in wet sand and lime. You realize the futility of it. The villa is fighting a war against the mountain, and the villa is losing. You look over at Lucius and Garrow. They are huddled in the far corner, away from the water, their eyes reflecting the lamplight. They are not looking at the floor. They are looking at the ceiling. You follow their gaze. The heavy timber beams, hewn from ancient oaks, are dark with moisture. A drop of water falls from the center of the room, splashing onto the emblema. Then another. The roof is compromised. The tiles above are shifting, allowing the storm to enter. The sanctity of the indoors has been breached. You return to your work stool, but you do not sit. You stand there, gripping the back of the wooden seat, your knuckles white. The atmosphere has shifted from one of urgent labor to one of primal survival. The smell in the room is complex and alarming. Beneath the scent of the lamp oil and the wet lime, there is the smell of the earth itself, a deep, pungent odor of rot, wet clay, and crushed vegetation.
It is the smell of a grave freshly dug in the rain. It enters your nose and coats your throat, a taste of metallic soil.
Then the vibration begins again. It is stronger this time. It is not the sharp rattle of thunder that shakes the window shutters. This is a low-frequency oscillation that seems to come from the center of the earth. You feel it in the soles of your sandals first, a buzzing sensation that travels up your shin bones to your knees. The water you failed to stop, now pooling in the corner, begins to ripple. Concentric rings appear on the surface of the puddle, interfering with each other, creating a chaotic, shivering pattern. The oil in the lamps trembles, making the flames dance in a strobe-like rhythm. The shadows on the walls begin to jerk and spasm. You look at your tools laid out on the wooden board. The martellina, the hammer you use to shape the stones, begins to slowly rotate on the table, driven by the vibration. It creeps toward the edge. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound of the metal moving against the wood is tiny, yet it screams in the quiet of the room. You put your hand on the table to stop it, and the wood feels alive under your palm. It is humming. The entire villa is humming. The stone walls, the timber roof, the mosaic floor, they are all resonating with the energy of the mountain. A deep, groaning sound emanates from the walls. It sounds like the ship you took from Ostia, the timber hull straining against a heavy sea. But this is a house of stone, anchored to bedrock. It should not groan. The plaster near the ceiling cornice cracks with a sharp snap, sending a shower of white dust drifting down into the lamplight. The dust hangs in the air, swirling in the drafts, creating a ghostly fog that diffuses the light. You cough, tasting the grit. You know, with a certainty that bypasses logic, that the work is over. The mosaic will not be finished today. Perhaps it will never be finished. The instinct to preserve the art is replaced by the instinct to preserve the self. You begin to pack your tools. It is a slow, deliberate process, a ritual of order in the face of chaos. You wipe the blade of the trowel. You place the hammer in its leather loop. You gather the remaining tesserae and pour them back into their canvas sacks. The sound of the stones clattering together is loud, too loud. You tie the sacks shut with trembling fingers. You are trying to pretend that this is normal, that you are simply ending the day's shift, but your heart is hammering against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. You look at the emblem one last time. The red stone you placed in the center, the heart of the design, is wet with a drop of rain from the leaking roof. It glistens like a fresh wound. The black and white meander pattern looks like a labyrinth now, a trap designed to confuse and imprison. You feel a sudden, irrational urge to destroy it, to smash the stones you so carefully laid, as if their geometric perfection is an insult to the chaos erupting around you. You resist the urge. You turn away. The rumble deepens. It is no longer intermittent. It is a continuous, growing growl, like a massive beast waking up beneath the foundations. The floor tilts. It is a subtle shift, barely perceptible to the eye, but your inner ear screams the warning. The equilibrium of the room is gone. The lamps slide an inch across the floor. The water in the corner sloshes, spilling further into the room. You grab the table to steady yourself. The air pressure drops so suddenly that your ears pop, a painful click that leaves your hearing muffled.
"We need to leave," you whisper. The words feel heavy, clumsy in your mouth. You look at Lucius and Garo. They are already standing, their faces masks of terror. They are waiting for you. You are the master. You are the one who decides. But you are paralyzed by the magnitude of the sensation. It feels as though the gravity of the earth has shifted. You take a step toward the door, your boots squelching in the mud and water. The exit seems miles away. The doorway is a dark mouth leading into the storm. As you take that step, the noise outside changes. The rhythmic drumming of the rain is swallowed by a new sound. It is a rushing, tearing noise,
the sound of a million roots snapping, of tons of rock grinding against rock, of a slurry of mud accelerating. It sounds like the ocean has been lifted up and dropped onto the mountain. The air in the room is sucked out, extinguishing 2 of the 3 lamps instantly. The last flame flickers violently, clinging to the wick, casting frantic, elongated shadows that stretch toward you like grasping hands. You are standing in the twilight of the world. The smell of pine resin and crushed stone explodes into the room, overpowering the dampness. The mountain is no longer holding its breath. It is exhaling, and it is bringing the earth down with it. You brace yourself against the shaking walls, your eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the door, waiting for the impact that you know, deep in your blood, you cannot escape. The disaster does not begin with a crash. It begins with a pressure in your ears, a sudden, violent change in the atmosphere that sucks the air from the room. The heavy oak doors you were staring at, the ones leading to the courtyard, do not open. They simply disintegrate. They bow inward, the wood screaming as the fibers snap, and then they are gone, replaced by a wall of moving earth. It is not a slide, it is a hydraulic injection of the mountain into the villa. The sound is absolute. It is a roar that has no pitch, a white noise so loud it cancels out your own thoughts. It sounds like the ocean has been dropped from the sky, a crushing weight of water, soil, rock, and uprooted trees that hits the structure with the force of a siege engine. The last oil lamp is extinguished instantly, not by the wind, but by the sheer displacement of air. You are plunged into a darkness that is physical, a heavy, suffocating blanket that blinds you before the debris even touches you. You are thrown backward. The floor, the solid, immovable foundation you have spent your life perfecting, rears up like the deck of a ship in a gale. The mosaic, your opus testulatum, is no longer a floor, it is a weapon. You feel the tesserae, the sharp little cubes of limestone and marble, biting into your palms and knees as you are hurled across the room. You slide over the wet mortar, the lime burning your skin, tumbling into the corner where the walls meet. There is no time to stand, no time to run. The physics of the collapse are moving faster than your nerves can register. You feel the impact of the wall against your back, a hard, unyielding stop that knocks the wind from your lungs.
Then the ceiling fails. The sound is distinct from the roar of the mud. It is a series of sharp, cracking retorts, like the snapping of dry bones magnified 1,000 times. The main timber beam, a massive trunk of chestnut wood that has held the roof for a generation, shears in half under the weight of the landslide above. It comes down with a rush of air, missing you by inches, smashing into the floor with a vibration that rattles your teeth. The roof tiles follow. Thousands of pounds of fired clay, rain-soaked and heavy, rain down into the room. They shatter on impact, sending shards of ceramic flying like shrapnel in the dark. You instinctively curl into a ball, covering your head with your arms, making yourself as small as possible. A piece of tile strikes your shoulder, numbing the arm instantly. Another hits your thigh. You scream, but you cannot hear it. The noise of the destruction is all-consuming. The mud arrives a second later. It is cold, wet, and relentlessly heavy. It flows over your legs, pinning them to the floor. It is a slurry of clay and rock, moving with the viscosity of wet cement. It piles up against the wall, burying you waist-deep in seconds. You try to kick, to pull your legs free, but the suction is immense. The earth has claimed you. The debris continues to fall, chunks of plaster, splintered wood, and the rocks of the hillside itself. The room is filling up, the space is compressing. You feel the air growing hot and thick with dust. It is not just dust, it is a cloud of pulverized limestone, ancient mortar, and dry rot, atomized by the violence of the collapse. You inhale, and your throat closes. You are breathing solid matter. You cough, a ragged, desperate spasm, but there is no fresh air to replace what you have expelled. You bury your face in the crook of your elbow, trying to filter the air through the rough wool of your tunic. The violence of the motion stops as abruptly as it began. The roar fades, replaced by the terrifying sounds of settling. The mountain has arrived, and now it is resting. You hear the groan of timber under extreme stress, the creak-snap creak of wood fibers slowly giving way. You hear the shifting of rocks sliding over one another, finding their angle of repose. And you hear the silence. It is a profound, ringing silence that presses against your eardrums. You are still. You are alive, but you are pinned. You try to assess your body in the dark. Your legs are gone, not severed, but vanished beneath the weight of the landslide. You can feel the cold wetness of the mud soaking through your tunic, chilling your skin. Your left arm is pinned at your side, trapped between your ribs and a piece of fallen masonry. Your right arm is free, but when you reach up, your hand brushes against something rough and cold, just inches above your head. It is a beam or a slab of wall. You run your fingers along it. It is damp wood. You are in a pocket, a small triangular void formed by the collapse of the roof beams against the corner walls. The structural failure that destroyed the room has inadvertently created a coffin-sized space that has saved you from being crushed flat. The dust is the immediate enemy. It hangs in the absolute darkness, thick and cloying. It coats your tongue with a bitter, alkaline taste, the taste of the lime mortar you were mixing just minutes ago. It stings your eyes, forcing them shut. You squeeze your eyelids tight, tears streaming down your face, turning the dust on your cheeks into a gritty paste. You try to spit the grit from your mouth, but your saliva is thick and metallic. You can taste blood. You must have bitten your tongue when you hit the wall. The coppery tang mixes with the chalky lime, a flavor of violence and construction. "Lucius!" You try to call out, but your voice is a croak. The dust has stripped your vocal cords. You try again, forcing the air from your diaphragm. "Garo!" Silence.
No, not silence. You hold your breath, straining to hear over the ringing in your ears and the pounding of your own heart. You hear a shifting sound to your left, a soft moan. It is low, guttural, the sound of an animal in pain. "Lucius?" you whisper. The moan comes again. It is close, perhaps only a few feet away, but separated by an impenetrable wall of darkness and debris. You reach out with your free hand, groping blindly into the void. Your fingers brush against jagged wood, cold stone, and the wet slickness of the mud. You cannot find him. The debris field is chaotic, a tangle of the ruined villa. You realize with a sinking horror that the floor you were standing on is no longer flat. It is a ruin of slopes and jagged edges. The temperature in the pocket is rising. The friction of the collapse has generated heat, and the decomposing plaster and lime are reacting with the moisture. The air is humid, heavy, and smells intensely of wet earth, that deep, pungent mineral scent of soil that has not seen the sun in centuries. It smells of the grave. You are sweating, the perspiration mixing with the dust on your skin to form a second skin of mud. You feel a drip of water land on your forehead. Plip. It is cold, rainwater. It is filtering down through the ruin above you. It runs down the bridge of your nose and into your mouth. You lick it greedily, washing the lime from your lips. It tastes of smoke and pine needles. You try to move your legs again. You push down with your hips, trying to leverage yourself up. Pain shoots up your spine, a sharp, hot line of fire. Your lower back is bruised, perhaps broken, but you can feel your toes. You wiggle them inside your sandals. They are there. They are responding, but the weight on their calves is immovable. You are anchored to the spot. The panic begins to rise again, a fluttering in your chest that threatens to turn into hyperventilation. You force yourself to breathe slowly, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The air is thin. You must conserve it. You do not know how large this pocket is. You do not know how much air you have. You close your eyes in the darkness, though it makes no difference. The visual field is a wall of static, the phosphenes of your retina firing in the absence of light. You see flashes of the mosaic floor, the geometric meander, the black and white stones, the red center. You see the patterns swirling, breaking apart, the stones flying. You realize the irony. You spent weeks ensuring the floor was level, that the foundation was solid. Now that foundation is the only thing holding you up, preventing you from sinking further into the mud. You are lying on your own work, trapped by the materials of your trade.
The opus tessellatum has become your bed.
The silence stretches out. The initial settling noises have quieted. Now there is only the sound of the water dripping, plip, 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 and the sound of your own ragged breathing. You feel the crushing isolation of the earth. Above you there are tons of rock and soil. Above that, the storm is likely still raging, the rain washing over the scar on the hillside where the villa used to be. But down here, there is no storm. There is no time. There is only the weight. You reach out again, your fingers tracing the rough surface of the stone next to your head. You feel a distinct shape, a sharp edge, a smooth face. It is a tessera, a loose stone from the bowl you were holding. You grip it tightly in your hand. It is a small, hard anchor to reality. You hold on to it as the shock begins to set in, your body starting to tremble uncontrollably in the dark, wet tomb of the villa. The world has narrowed down to this: the darkness, the pain, the smell of wet lime, and the small black stone in your hand. You are alone. You do not wake up. You simply drift back into existence. There is no sudden jolt, no gasp for air, only a slow, sluggish return to a reality that feels less like life and more like a dense, heavy dream. The first sensation is not pain, but weight, a profound, distributed pressure that seems to be pressing down on every inch of your skin simultaneously. It is the weight of the earth, the weight of the mountain, the weight of the silence. For a long time you lie there, suspended in the void, unable to distinguish between your own body and the debris that encases it. You are a part of the ruin now, just another broken element in the collapsed triclinium. You open your eyes. The result is terrifyingly identical to when they were closed. The darkness is absolute. It is not the darkness of a moonless night or a shuttered room. It is the darkness of the deep earth, a heavy velvet blackness that presses against your corneas. It has a physical quality, a density that makes you feel as though you are swimming in ink. You blink once, twice, waiting for your eyes to adjust, for the faint outline of a beam or a jagged tear in the roof to appear. Nothing happens. The phosphenes of your own retina swirl, faint, ghostly purples and greens, but they are lies. There is no light here. You are buried. You try to inhale. The air is thick, resisting your lungs. It is no longer air. It is a suspension of pulverized matter. It tastes of alkali and violence. It is the taste of the limestone mortar you spent the morning mixing, now dried and atomized by the force of the collapse. It coats the back of your throat with a dry, chalky paste. You cough, a weak rattling spasm that shakes your ribs, and the dust blooms in the darkness, entering your nose and mouth again. You realize that you are breathing the villa. You are inhaling the plaster, the paint, the marble dust, and the centuries of dry rot that were hidden in the walls. It is a bitter chemical flavor that stings your tongue and dries out your mucous membranes instantly. You attempt to move. The instinct is to thrash, to fight the confinement, but your body refuses. Your legs are pinned. You can feel them, distant and numb, buried under a mass of wet clay and timber. The sensation is not of being crushed, but of being held. The mud has flowed around your calves and thighs like a mold, setting hard as it settles. You are anchored to the floor you created. You try to pull your left leg free, exerting all the strength in your core. Pain flares in your lower back, a hot white spike that travels up your spine and explodes behind your eyes. You gasp, inhaling more dust. The pain is a warning. The debris is unstable. If you move too violently, the pocket you are in could collapse further. You stop. You lie still. You let the pain subside into a dull, throbbing ache that pulses in time with your heart. Your heart. It is the loudest thing in the universe. Thump, thump. Thump, thump. You can feel it beating against the dirt floor, reverberating through your sternum. It sounds frantic,
a trapped bird beating too fast for a body that is lying so still. You force yourself to focus on it, to slow it down. Panic consumes oxygen. You remember the old miners in the quarries of Carrara, how they spoke of the quiet breath when the tunnels collapsed. You must find the quiet breath. You inhale through your nose, filtering the dust with the hairs of your nostrils. You exhale slowly through pursed lips. The sound is a soft hiss in the darkness. You reach out with your right hand, the only limb that seems to have full range of motion. You are mapping your coffin. Your fingers brush against a cold, rough surface inches from your face. It is wood. You trace the grain. It is split and splintered, the heartwood of one of the main roof beams. It is resting at an angle, creating a triangular void above your head. You follow the beam down. It ends in a mess of shattered roof tiles. The terracotta is sharp, cutting your fingertips. You pull your hand back and bring it to your face. You can smell the iron scent of fresh blood on your fingers, mixing with the lime. You touch your face. It is covered in a mask of wet grit. You wipe your eyes, clearing the crust from your lashes. You reach out to the other side. Stone. Cold, wet, slimy stone. It is the wall of the triclinium. You recognize the texture of the plaster you smoothed weeks ago. It is cracked now, bulging inward. Water is weeping from the cracks, a slow, steady bleed that runs down the wall and pools near your shoulder. You turn your head and press your cheek against the wet stone. The cold is shocking, but it is welcome. It numbs the throbbing in your head. You lick the stone, desperate to wash the taste of the lime from your mouth. The taste tastes of mud and pine resin. It is the mountain weeping into your tomb.
The silence returns. It is not a true silence. It is a heavy, muffled quiet that amplifies the smallest sounds. You can hear the settling of the building. Somewhere above you a timber groans, a long, drawn-out creak of wood fibers stretching. A shower of fine dust lands on your face. You freeze. Is this it? Is the rest coming down? You hold your breath until your lungs burn. The groaning stops. The silence reclaims the space. It is a silence that feels ancient, indifferent. It is the silence of geology, of rocks that wait for millennia. Then you hear it, a sound that does not belong to the earth. A soft, wet sound. A cough. Lucius? You try to speak, but your voice is a broken croak. The dust has desiccated your vocal cords. You swallow, trying to generate saliva, and try again. Lucius? The sound comes from your left, through the wall of debris. It is close, perhaps only an arm's length away, but separated by a barrier of ruin. Master. The voice is faint, barely a whisper. It is tight with pain. It is Garo. Garo. You say his name like a prayer. Can you move? There is a long pause. You hear the shifting of gravel, a soft grunt of exertion, and then a sharp intake of breath. No, Garo whispers. My legs. The stone. It is on me. Stay still, you command, your voice gaining a fraction of its strength. Don't struggle, you will bring it down. It is dark, Garo says. His voice trembles. He is young, barely 17. He has never known the true dark. Why is it so dark? The lamps are out, you lie. We are covered. Save your air. You listen for Lucius. You call his name. Lucius? Can you hear me? Silence. You call again, louder this time, ignoring the pain in your chest. Lucius? Nothing. No groan, no shifting of debris, just the relentless, heavy silence of the earth. You know where he was standing. He was near the center of the room, near the emblema. The roof beam that saved you likely crushed the center of the floor. You feel a cold knot of certainty in your stomach. Lucius is gone. The silence from his direction is not the silence of sleep. It is the silence of absence. You were alone with the boy.
You close your eyes again, retreating into the internal world. The external world has nothing for you. You try to estimate the time. How long were you unconscious? Minutes? Hours? The air is cooling. The heat of the initial collapse has dissipated, sucked away by the wet earth. The dampness is seeping through your clothes, chilling your core. You start to shiver, uncontrollable tremors that shake your limbs. The shivering is dangerous. It uses energy. It uses oxygen. You try to tense your muscles to stop it, but the cold is inside you now.
You focus on the smell. The sensory deprivation of the darkness heightens your olfactory sense. The smell of the lime is fading, replaced by the smell of the wet earth, a pungent, fungal scent of decay. It smells like the forest floor after a storm, but concentrated, fermented. You can smell the leather of your sandals, the wool of your tunic, the sweat of your own fear. And beneath it all, faint but distinct, the metallic, coppery tang of blood. It is everywhere. You realize with a creeping horror that you are thirsty. It has only been a short time since the collapse, but the dust has sucked the moisture from your body. Your tongue feels like a piece of dry leather in your mouth. You think of the water jug that was sitting on the table. It is smashed now, the water lost to the mud. You think of the fountain in the courtyard, the clear, cool water bubbling up from the spring. It is buried. You think of the rain that caused this, the torrents of water washing over the villa. You are surrounded by wet mud, yet you cannot drink. The irony is bitter. You reach out to the wall again, finding the trickle of water. You cup your hand, pressing it against the plaster, trying to catch the drops. It is slow, agonizingly slow. Drip, wait, drip, wait. You press your wet palm to your lips, sucking the moisture from your skin. It is gritty and tastes of dirt, but it is liquid. You do this again and again, a mindless, repetitive task that keeps the panic at bay. Catch, lick, catch, lick. It becomes your whole world. The air is getting heavier. You can feel the carbon dioxide building up in the pocket. It makes your head swim, a dull, narcotic dizziness that softens the edges of your fear. You feel drowsy. The urge to sleep is overwhelming. It would be so easy to just drift off, to let the darkness take you completely. But you know that sleep is dangerous. If the air runs out while you sleep, you will never wake up. Master? Garrow's voice breaks the silence again. It is weaker now. I am here, Garrow. I can see the pattern, he whispers. The meander. It is glowing. No, Garrow, it is dark. It is glowing, he insists. The black stones, they are moving. They are snakes. He is hallucinating. The bad air, the shock, the darkness. Close your eyes, Garrow. Think of the sea. Think of the harbor at Ostia. The snakes, he murmurs, and then he falls silent again. You are left with the sound of his ragged breathing. In hiff, out huff. In hiff, out huff. It is the only clock you have. You count his breaths. 100, 200, 500. The counting anchors you. It imposes a sequence on the void. As long as you are counting, time exists. As long as time exists, there is a chance of rescue. But deep down, in the cold, wet part of your mind, you know the truth. The villa is buried deep. The landslide was massive. No one is coming. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. The silence of the earth is patient. It has all the time in the world. You are just a temporary disturbance in the strata. You lay your head back against the sharp stones of the debris. You stop fighting the weight. You let the darkness enter you. You are the tessera now. You are set in the mortar. You are part of the floor. You wait. Time has dissolved. In the absolute crushing blackness of the tomb, the sun and the moon have lost their authority. There is no morning, no evening, no shadow to mark the passage of the hours. There is only the rhythm of your own failing body, the beat of your heart, the rasp of your breath, and the slow creeping expansion of the thirst.
It begins as a dryness in the mouth, a trivial discomfort easily ignored in the face of the catastrophe. But as the silence stretches into what feels like days, the thirst transforms. It becomes a physical entity, a tightening noose around your throat. The dust you inhaled, the pulverized limestone in ancient mortar, has acted like a desiccant, sucking the moisture from your tongue, your gums, your palate. You try to swallow, but there is nothing to swallow. Your throat clicks, a dry, sticky sound that echoes inside your skull. It feels as though you have swallowed a handful of hot sand. The irony is cruel and absolute. You are trapped in a prison made of mud. You are buried because the sky opened up and drowned the mountain. The air around you is heavy with humidity, a damp, cloying vapor that clings to your skin and soaks your wool tunic. You are shivering uncontrollably, your teeth chattering in the dark, because the wet earth is leaching the heat from your core. You are surrounded by water, in the mud, in the wood, in the air, yet you are dying for lack of it. The water is everywhere, but it is locked in the matrix of the landslide, inaccessible or contaminated with the very earth that is crushing you. You can smell it. The scent of wet clay and pine resin is pungent, taunting you with the promise of a forest stream that does not exist here. You shift your weight. The pain in your legs has dulled to a heavy, throbbing numbness, a sign that the circulation is being cut off. But the need for water overrides the pain. You remember the Ursius, the single-handled clay pitcher that Lucius had filled from the fountain just before the storm broke. It was sitting on the wooden trestle table, near the pile of white tesserae. In your mind's eye you see it glowing in the dark, the cruel, porous clay sweating with condensation, the water inside clear and sweet. You need to find it. It is a desperate, illogical quest, but it gives you a purpose. It gives you a reason to move in a space that allows no movement.
You begin to crawl. It is not a crawl in the traditional sense. It is a worm-like slither, a series of minute, agonizing adjustments. You reach out with your free hand, your fingers acting as your eyes. You map the chaos of the collapse. To your right, the rough, splintered grain of the fallen roof beam. To your left, the slick, slimy surface of the wet plaster wall. You push yourself forward, dragging your trapped legs an inch, then another. The sound of your movement is loud, the scraping of fabric against stone, the shifting of gravel. Every inch is a battle against the weight of the debris. You breathe in short, shallow gasps, trying to not inhale more of the dust, but the exertion makes your heart hammer against your ribs. Your hand strikes something sharp. You recoil, bringing your fingers to your mouth. You taste the copper of fresh blood, warm and metallic, mixing with the grit on your tongue. You reach out again, more tentatively this time. You feel the edge. It is a shard of pottery. Curved, smooth on one side, rough on the fracture. You run your thumb along the rim. It is the neck of the pitcher. Your heart leaps, then sinks. It is just a piece. You sweep your hand across the area, searching frantically for the base, for the hollow belly of the jar that might still hold a cupful of water. You find another shard, then another, and then the handle still attached to a jagged piece of the body. The pitcher is destroyed, shattered by the falling roof tiles. The water is gone, spilled onto the floor, absorbed instantly by the dry debris and the thirsty lime. You bring the shard of the pitcher to your face. It is cold. You stick out your swollen tongue and lick the concave inner surface. It is damp. A microscopic film of moisture clings to the clay. You lick it greedily, scraping your tongue against the rough ceramic until it is raw. It is not a drink, it is a ghost of a drink. It offers no relief, only a reminder of what you have lost. You drop the shard. It clatters against the stones, a hollow, mocking sound. You slump forward, resting your forehead on the wet rubble. The despair washes over you, heavier than the mud. You are a master craftsman, a builder of eternal things, and you are reduced to licking broken pottery in the dark.
But the thirst is a relentless driver. It does not allow you to give up. You remember the nature of the room. The walls are lined with marble panels, crusta, up to waist height. Marble is non-porous. It is cold. Condensation collects on it. You turn your body, twisting your spine until you are facing the wall. You reach up. Your fingers brush the smooth, polished surface of the Cipollino marble. It feels greasy with moisture. The humidity of the pocket has condensed on the cold stone. You press your face against the wall. The stone is freezing against your feverish skin. You open your mouth and drag your tongue along the marble. You taste the dust first, the gritty layer of limestone that coats everything. But beneath the grit, there is water, tiny beads of it. You lick the wall like an animal. You slide your face upward, chasing the moisture. It is foul tasting, of mold, earth, and the sweat of the stone, but it is liquid. You swallow, your throat convulsing painfully as the tiny amount of fluid goes down. You do this for a long time. Lick, swallow, rest. Lick, swallow, rest. It is a debasing, primitive act, but in the dark, dignity has no value. Only survival matters.
You pause. You hear a sound from behind you. A dry, clicking sound. It is Garo. He is trying to swallow. You can hear the sticky friction of his tongue against the roof of his mouth. He is awake. Master. His voice is a husk, a whisper of dry leaves. Water. The word hangs in the stagnant air. It is a plea, a command, and a prayer. You have nothing to give him. You cannot reach him. He is separated from you by a tangle of beams in the darkness. You feel a pang of guilt so sharp it pierces through your own suffering. You brought him here. You kept him working when the storm began. You are responsible for his thirst. There is no water, Garo. You rasp. Your voice sounds foreign to your own ears, deep, cracked, and ruined. The jug is broken. I can hear it. Running water. A fountain. No, you say, sharper this time. It is the rain outside. It is far away. It is close, he insists. I can smell it. Wine, mixed with honey. He is drifting again. The dehydration is affecting his mind. You know this stage. You have seen it in the men who work the lime kilns in the summer, who collapse speaking of snow. You need to anchor him. You need to give him something, anything, to keep him from slipping into the delirium that precedes the end. You reach down and tear a strip of wool from the hem of your tunic. You spit on it. It is a pathetic offering, a mouthful of thick, cottony saliva, but it is wet. You wipe the cloth against the damp wall, collecting the condensation and the grime. It is soaked now, cold and heavy. Garo, you say, reach out your hand. You hear him shifting. You reach back into the void, waving the wet rag. Here, take this. Your fingers brush. His hand is hot, feverishly hot. He grabs the cloth with a desperate strength. You hear him bringing it to his face. You hear him sucking on the wool. It is a vile drink, sweat, dirt, and stone water. But he makes a sound of relief, a low moan that breaks your heart. Good, he whispers. Good. You turn back to the wall. You continue your own harvest. You are an automaton now. Your world has narrowed to the square foot of marble in front of your face. You map the veins of the stone with your tongue. You learn the texture of the cracks. You are drinking the villa, consuming the architecture to stay alive. The taste of the lime is constant. It burns your lips. You wonder if the lime is eating you from the inside out, if your stomach is turning into mortar.
The exertion of the movement begins to catch up with you. Your head swims. The darkness seems to pulse, expanding and contracting with your heartbeat. You stop licking. You rest your cheek against the cold stone. The cold is seeping into your skull, numbing your thoughts. You close your eyes, and the visions come. Not hallucinations, but memories, sharp and vivid. You see the aqueduct at Segovia, the massive stone arches carrying a river in the sky.
You see the public baths in Rome, the steam rising from the caldarium, the sound of water splashing on mosaic tiles. You see a glass of Posca, the vinegar water of the legions, sharp and sour and infinitely refreshing. You swallow dry air. The vision fades. You are back in the grave. The silence is back, heavier than before. You listen for Garo. He is quiet now. The rag has given him a moment of peace. You wonder if it will be his last comfort. You wonder if you have just given him his last meal. The thirst is not gone. It is merely waiting. It is a patient beast. It knows that the condensation is not enough. It knows that your body is using water faster than you can lick it from the walls. You feel the skin of your face tightening. Your eyes feel gritty in their sockets. You are drying out. You are becoming like the old leather sandals on your feet, stiff, brittle, and dead. You curl up as best you can in the confined space. You pull your knees toward your chest, trying to preserve your warmth, trying to reduce the surface area of your body. You surrender to the thirst. You let it be. There is nothing else to do. You wait for the hallucinations to return, hoping that next time they will bring a river that you can drown in. The air has changed. It is no longer just stale or dusty. It has become a physical weight, a thick narcotic syrup that you pull into your lungs with every ragged breath. You are deep in the earth, in a pocket of space that is slowly, inevitably filling with the exhaust of your own survival. Carbon dioxide is pooling in the hollows, wrapping around your head like a warm, wet blanket. It does not suffocate you with violence. It sedates you. It blurs the sharp edges of your panic, replacing the acute terror of the collapse with a dull, throbbing confusion. The headache is constant now, a tight iron band wrapped around your temples, pulsing in time with the slow, sludge-like beat of your heart. You are no longer sure if your eyes are open or closed. In the absolute darkness, the distinction has lost its meaning. When you close them, you see the darkness. When you open them, you see the darkness. But the darkness is no longer empty. It has begun to teem with activity. Your brain, starved of sensory input and poisoned by the bad air, has begun to manufacture its own reality. It reaches into the deep reservoirs of your memory, pulling out the only things it knows: stone, geometry, and the endless, repetitive rhythm of the mosaic.
It starts with the static, a fine, grain-like shimmer in the blackness, like the dust motes dancing in a sunbeam that isn't there. Then the static begins to organize. It coalesces into lines, straight, sharp, glowing lines. They are faint at first, ghost-white against the void, but they grow brighter. You blink, trying to clear your vision, but the lines do not vanish. They are burned onto your retinas. They are the guide strings, the level lines you stretched across the triclinium days ago. They are vibrating, humming with a low frequency that you feel in your teeth. You reach out to touch them. Your hand passes through the light, grasping nothing but damp air and rough stone. But your mind tells you they are real. You can feel the tension in the string. You can hear the twang as you pluck it. The sound echoes in the small space, louder than the landslide, louder than the silence. Twang, twang. It is the music of alignment. Then the floor appears. Not the ruined, mud-slicked debris you are actually lying on, but the floor, the perfect floor. The darkness beneath you dissolves, replaced by a luminous, infinite plane of opus tessellatum. It is the design you were working on, but it has evolved. It is no longer bound by the walls of a Roman villa. It stretches out in all directions, a vast, flat horizon of black and white tiles. The meander pattern, the Greek key, is moving. The black lines are flowing like rivers of ink, turning at right angles, folding back on themselves, creating a labyrinth that pulses with a cold blue light. You look down at your hands. They are glowing too. You are holding your trowel, but it is made of light. You are holding the martellina. You feel the weight of the tool, the familiar balance of the steel head. You look at the floor. There is a hole in the pattern, a gap where the chaos of the landslide interrupted your work. It is an offense to the geometry. It is a wound in the mathematical perfection of the universe. You must fix it. You cannot rest until the pattern is complete. You begin to work. In reality, your body is barely moving. Your hand twitches in the mud, your fingers scratching feebly at a piece of broken roof tile. But in your mind, you are a titan of industry. You are kneeling on the clouds. You reach into your bowl of stars and pull out a tessera. It is a cube of pure light. You place it in the gap. Tink. The sound is crystalline, beautiful. You place another. Tink. And another. Tink. The rhythm takes you. It is faster than before. You are not hindered by gravity or fatigue. You are laying stones at the speed of thought. You are repairing the world. Black, black, white. Black, black, white. The pattern heals itself under your hands. You feel a surge of euphoria, a manic joy that overrides the thirst and the pain in your crushed legs. This is what you were made for. This is the eternal task, to impose order on the void, to make the crooked straight. Master?
The voice comes from outside the pattern. It is distant, muffled, like someone shouting from the bottom of a well. It ripples the geometric plane, causing the lines to waver and bend. You look up. Standing on the edge of the infinite floor is a figure. It is Garrow, but it is not the boy you knew. He is made of stone. His skin is marble. His eyes are onyx. His hair is a mosaic of small, dark pebbles. He is a statue, frozen in a gesture of supplication. "The line is crooked, Master," the statue says. Its lips do not move, but the voice resonates in your skull. You look back at your work. He is right. The line you just laid, the line of pure light, is drifting. It is spiraling inward. The Greek key is not a square anymore. It is a spiral, a vortex. It is pulling you in. You try to correct it. You strike the stones with your hammer of light, trying to force them back into the grid. Crack, crack. But the stones are stubborn. They want to spiral. They want to go down. "It is the earth," you whisper to the statue. "The earth is curved. The floor must curve." "The geometry is wrong," the statue of Garrow replies. "The angles are bleeding." You look closely at the mortar between the glowing stones. It is not gray lime. It is red. It is blood. It is bubbling up between the joints, thick and dark. The floor is bleeding. You try to wipe it away with your trowel, but it spreads, staining the white marble, turning the light into a dark, rusty smear. The smell of the blood is overpowering, metallic and salt-heavy. It mixes with the smell of the ozone and the wet dog scent of the mud. You are confused. Why is the floor bleeding? You look at your hands. They are covered in the red mortar. You try to wipe them on your tunic, but your tunic is made of lead. It is so heavy. You cannot lift your arms. The hammer falls from your grip, dissolving into mist as it hits the ground. The euphoria fades, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. The spiral is spinning faster now. The black and white tiles are blurring into a gray whirlpool. "Garrow," you scream, or think you scream. "Stop the floor, it is moving." The statue does not move. It watches you with its stone eyes. "It is not the floor, Master. It is the mountain. We are in the mountain's belly." The logic of the dream shifts. You are no longer on the floor. You are in the floor. You are a tessera. You are a single small cube of stone trapped in a bed of hardening lime. You can feel the pressure of the other stones pressing against your sides. To your left, a block of basalt. To your right, a shard of terracotta. You are locked in. You are part of the pattern now. You cannot move because you are structural. If you move, the whole villa falls. This realization brings a strange, terrifying comfort. You do not need to breathe. Stones do not breathe. You do not need to drink. Stones do not thirst. You just need to hold. You need to be hard. You need to wait for the cement to cure. You stiffen your muscles, locking your joints. You become rigid. You are imitating the rigor of death before it has even arrived. I am the stone, you murmur. The words vibrate in your chest. You are the stone, the darkness whispers back. But the thirst is a persistent intruder in this mineral fantasy. It breaks through the delusion. Your tongue is a dry sponge. It scrapes against your teeth. The sensation jolts you back to the physical world for a fleeting second. You are lying in the mud. You are cold. You are dying. The infinite floor vanishes, replaced by the crushing weight of the black tomb. The despair hits you like a physical blow, sharper than before because of the brief escape. You start to weep, but there are no tears. Your body has no water to spare for sadness. Your eyes burn, dry and hot. You make a sound, a high, thin, keening noise that sounds like a wind trapped in a chimney. Then the geometry returns. It is relentless. It cannot be stopped. The darkness swirls again, forming new shapes. Not squares this time. Circles, interlocking rings. The guilloche pattern. It looks like a chain. It looks like a snake eating its own tail. The rings are spinning around you, tightening. They are the ribs of the earth, constricting your chest. You see faces in the pattern. The face of the Dominus laughing. The face of your father frowning as he inspects your first clumsy attempt at a wall. The face of Lucius, pale and dusty, his mouth open in a silent scream. They are all tiles in the mosaic. They are all trapped in the floor with you. Join us, the pattern says. It is quiet here. It is flat. It is level. You reach out to them. You want to be flat. You want to be level. You want the spinning to stop. You trace the air with your finger, drawing the circles, following the infinite loop of the hallucination. Your finger traces the wet, slimy surface of the real stone wall next to you, but your mind feels the warm, smooth surface of a finished masterpiece. I am working, you whisper to the darkness. I am almost finished. Your hand keeps moving, scratching the mud, drawing invisible lines in the suffocating dark. You are constructing your own mausoleum, one imaginary stone at a time. The line between the artist and the art has vanished. You are the mosaic, and the mosaic is you, and you are both sinking slowly, spiraling down into the center of the earth, where the geometry is perfect and the silence is eternal.
The geometric fever dream recedes, not all at once, but like a tide going out, leaving the raw, jagged shoreline of reality exposed. The glowing lines of the mosaic fade into the suffocating black. The perfect, infinite floor shrinks back into the claustrophobic, mud-choked pocket of the ruined villa. You are no longer a titan of industry or a block of stone. You are a man, broken and thirsty, lying in the dark. What pulls you back is the sound. For hours, or perhaps days, the rhythm of Garrow's breathing has been the metronome of your existence. It was a steady, if ragged, in-huff, out-huff that marked the passage of time in a place where time has no meaning. But the rhythm has changed. It has lost its cadence. It is no longer a continuous cycle. It is a series of startled gasps followed by long, terrifying pauses. It is the sound of a machine that is running out of fuel, the gears grinding against dry metal, the momentum failing. You shift in the debris, ignoring the flare of pain in your crushed legs. The movement is small, just a turning of your head, but in the silence, the rustle of your tunic sounds like a landslide. You reach out with your right hand.
You grope through the darkness, past the sharp edge of the broken roof tile, past the wet slick of the mud. Your fingers brush against something soft and warm. It is wool. You follow the fabric up until you find a wrist. It is thin, the bone prominent beneath the skin. "Garrow?" you whisper. Your voice is a wreck, a dry, rasping sound that barely carries across the small space. He does not answer. His arm is limp in your grasp, heavy and unresisting. You slide your hand down to his palm. It is cold, not the cold of the stone wall, but a clammy, unnatural chill that sits on top of the fever heat. You feel the calluses on his fingers, hard, rough patches of skin earned from months of grinding stone and mixing lime. They are the marks of his trade, the only inheritance a boy like him possesses. You squeeze his hand, a desperate pressure. "Garrow, squeeze back." A long silence. Then a weak, fluttering pressure against your fingers. He is there. He is still tethered to the world, but the line is fraying. "Master." The word is not spoken. It is exhaled, a ghost of a breath shaped by dry lips. "I am here," you say. You try to wet your lips, but your tongue is like sandpaper. "Save your strength." The sun. It is on my face. You look up into the crushing darkness. There is no sun. There is only the weight of the mountain. But you do not correct him. The delusion is a kindness now. "Yes," you lie. "It is warm. It is noon." "I can smell the bread," he whispers. His voice is becoming lighter, detached from the heavy air of the tomb. "The baker, in the forum, fresh bread." You can smell only the wet rot of the earth and the metallic tang of the stagnant air. But you remember the smell he speaks of, the yeast, the wood smoke, the hot flour. It hurts to remember it. It is a pain sharper than the thirst.
"Eat," you whisper. "Eat your fill, Garrow." His breathing hitches, a long, rattling inhalation that sounds like air bubbling through water. Then a pause. You count the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. You lean forward, straining to hear, your heart hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs. "Breathe, please breathe." A sudden, sharp exhalation, then another gasp. The rhythm resumes, but it is shallower now. The pauses are getting longer. The chain stokes respiration of the dying. You know this sound. You heard it from your father when the fever took him. You heard it from the soldiers in the campaigns of your youth. It is the sound of the body shutting down, room by room, turning off the lights before the final departure. You shift your body, dragging yourself closer to him. The pain in your back is blinding, but you ignore it. You need to be close. You cannot let him go alone. You maneuver until your shoulder is pressing against the debris that separates you. You reach through a gap in the fallen timbers and find his head. His hair is matted with dust and blood. His forehead is burning hot, yet his skin feels wet. "Garrow," you say, your voice cracking. "Do not sleep. Stay with me." "I am tired, master," he breathes. "The work is hard." "The work is done," you tell him. "The floor is finished. It is perfect. The Dominus is pleased." "Perfect," he echoes. The word is a sigh. "Blue stones for the sky." "Yes, blue stones, lapis lazuli, glass from Egypt, the best." He is quiet for a long time. You hold his hand, rubbing your thumb over his knuckles. You are trying to transfer your own life into him, to push your warmth through the skin and into his blood. You think of the years he has been with you. He was a clumsy boy when he arrived, dropping tiles, mixing the mortar too wet. You scolded him. You struck him once when he ruined a batch of expensive red pigment. The memory of that blow burns you now with a shame so hot it makes you nauseous. You want to apologize, to beg his forgiveness, but the words feel too heavy. "Lucius?" Garrow asks suddenly. His voice is clear, startlingly loud in the small space. "He's sleeping," you say. You do not tell him that Lucius has been silent for 2 days.
You do not tell him that Lucius is likely already gone. Tell him to bring the water, Garrow says. I am thirsty. He is bringing it, you promise. He is coming now. Just wait. Okay, he whispers. I will wait. The breathing changes again. The rattling stops. It becomes a soft, rhythmic clicking in his throat. The struggle is ending. The body is surrendering. You feel his hand relax in yours. The tension leaves his fingers. The grip he had on the world is loosening.
You close your eyes. You are weeping, but without tears. Your body has no water for tears. Your chest heaves with dry, silent sobs. You are the master craftsman, the teacher. You were supposed to protect him. You were supposed to teach him the trade, to see him become a master himself, to watch him grow old and complain about his knees. Instead, you have led him into the dark to die. You have built him a tomb of masterpiece quality. Garrow, you whisper. In-huff. Silence. Longer this time. 10 seconds. 15. Out-huff. A release. A long, slow exhalation that seems to carry the last of the heat out of his body. You wait. You hold your breath, listening with every nerve ending in your body. You listen for the catch, for the gasp, for the struggle. There is nothing. Only the silence. The silence that follows is different from the silence of the stones. It is heavier. It is profound. It is the absence of a universe. A light has gone out in the dark, and the darkness is suddenly thicker, colder, more absolute. You squeeze his hand. Garrow? There is no response, no flutter of pressure. The hand in yours is just flesh and bone now. The spark is gone. You do not let go. You cannot let go. If you let go, he is truly gone. If you hold on, perhaps a part of him is still there. You sit there in the dark, holding the hand of your dead apprentice. The minutes stretch into hours. You feel the warmth slowly leaching out of his skin, replaced by the ambient temperature of the wet earth. He is becoming the villa. He is becoming the mountain. A terrible, hollow loneliness opens up inside you. It is vast and echoing. You are the last one. You are the sole witness to the tragedy. The isolation is no longer just physical, it is existential. There is no one to talk to, no one to hear your breathing, no one to share the terror. You are the king of the rubble, ruling over a kingdom of dust and corpses. You slowly, reluctantly withdraw your hand. You pull it back through the gap in the timbers. You bring your hand to your cheek and press it against your cheek. It smells of him, of sweat, of lime, of the unwashed wool. It is the smell of a life that has just ended. You reach out and find a small stone, a loose tessera on the floor. You place it on the ledge of the beam above you. A marker, a monument. Rest, you whisper into the dark. The shift is over.
You curl up into a ball, wrapping your arms around your shivering chest. The cold is inside you now. The death of the boy has stripped away your last layer of defense. You feel small, insignificant. The mountain does not care that Garrow is dead. The earth does not mourn. It simply settles. You hear a shift in the debris above, a soft cascade of gravel. It sounds like dirt being thrown onto a coffin. You close your eyes and wait for your turn. You listen to your own heart, beating slow and loud in the quiet. Thump, 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 thump. It sounds obscenely loud. It sounds like an insult to the silence. You wish it would stop. You wish you could join him in the sun, in the forum, smelling the fresh bread. But the heart beats on, a cruel drum marching you further into the nightmare. You are alone. You are drifting.
The darkness has lost its edge, softening into a gray, woolly fog that fills your mind. You are no longer cold. The shivering has stopped, replaced by a strange, heavy warmth that sits deep in your belly. You know what this is. You have seen it in the eyes of the old men in the village, in the soldiers who sat too long in the snow. It is the body surrendering. The biological will to survive is unspooling, the knots loosening one by one. You are untethering. Beside you, the silence of Garrow is a physical weight. He is a statue now, cooling rapidly in the damp air, returning to the carbon and water from which he was made. You feel a profound, detached envy. He has crossed the threshold. He is no longer thirsty. He is no longer trapped in a box of mud. He has gone to where the geometry is perfect and the light is eternal. You want to follow him. It would be so easy. Just close your eyes. Just stop the ragged, painful work of expanding your lungs against the weight of the debris. Just let the carbon dioxide finish its work. You drift deeper. The memories come, fragmented, brightly colored tiles falling through the dark. The smell of frying garlic, the texture of a woman's hair, the blinding white of the marble quarries at Carrara, the sound of the sea hitting the breakwater at Ostia. They are beautiful, these shards of a life. You examine them with a distant curiosity, as if they belong to someone else. You are ready to let them go. You are ready to become the silence. But the earth is not done with you. It starts as a vibration, not a sound, but a shudder. It travels through the floor, your floor, and into your hip bone. It is faint, a ghost of a sensation. At first, you think it is the mountains settling again, the tectonic readjustment of the landslide. You wait for the roar, for the crushing weight to shift and finish you off. You brace yourself for the end.
But the roar does not come. Instead, the vibration repeats. Thump. Silence. Thump. Silence. Thump. You frown in the darkness. The rhythm is wrong for the earth. The earth is chaotic. Landslides are fluid, violent, and continuous. Earthquakes are spasms. This is distinct. It is percussive. It is spaced out. It has a tempo. 1, 2, 3. You try to ignore it. You want to sleep. The noise is an intrusion, a nagging annoyance that is pulling you back from the peaceful edge of oblivion. You try to burrow deeper into the debris, to cover your ears, but your arms are too heavy to move. The sound travels through the stone, bypassing your ears, ringing directly in your skeleton. Clack. The quality of the sound changes. It is sharper now, higher pitched. It is not just heavy impact, it is metal striking stone. It is the sound of iron biting into rock. It is a sound you know better than your own name. It is the sound of the quarry, the sound of the chisel, the sound of the pickaxe. Your eyes snap open. The darkness is unchanged, but your mind is suddenly, violently awake. The adrenaline hits you like a bucket of ice water, shocking your heart back into a frantic, stumbling rhythm. Clack, thump. Clack, thump. It is distant, muffled by tons of wet soil and timber. It sounds like it is coming from another world, but it is there. It is rhythmic. It is persistent. It is human. Someone is digging. The realization is not joyful. It is terrifying. It forces you to acknowledge that you are still alive, that the suffering is not over. It drags you back into the pain of your crushed legs, the agony of your thirst, the horror of the tomb. You do not want to hope. Hope is a cruelty. If they are digging, they could be days away. They could be looting the ruins. They could give up. To hope now is to open yourself to a second death. But the sound continues. It is getting stronger. Clack, clack, clack. You can analyze it now. You are a craftsman. You know the language of tools. That is a heavy pick, swung by a strong man. He is hitting a layer of hardpan or masonry. He is breaking through. He stops. A pause. The sound of shoveling, the soft shh of debris being moved. Then the pick again. He is clearing a shaft. Here, you try to say. The word is a puff of dry air. No sound comes out. Your throat is glued shut. You need to signal. You need to make noise. You try to move your right arm. It feels like it belongs to a corpse. The muscles are stiff, unresponsive. You grit your teeth, focusing every ounce of your will on your fingers. Move. Damn you, move. Your fingers twitch. You drag your hand across the rough floor. Pain shoots up your shoulder, hot and jagged. You gasp, inhaling a lungful of stale dust.
Your hand bumps against something hard, a rock, a piece of the fallen wall. It is jagged, about the size of a fist. You curl your fingers around it. It is heavy. Lifting it feels like lifting a mountain. You drag it toward your chest. You need a surface. The wooden beam above you, it is resonant. It will carry the sound. You lift the stone. Your arm shakes violently. You strike the beam. Tap. It is pathetic. A soft, wet thud that barely echoes in the small pocket. The sound outside continues, indifferent. Clack, clack, clack. They didn't hear you. Of course they didn't hear you. You are buried under a hillside. You are a ghost scratching at a coffin lid. Panic rises, threatening to choke you. You have to be louder. You have to match their rhythm. You wait. You listen to the tempo of the digger. Strike, recover, strike, recover. You time it. As the pickaxe hits, you hit. Clack, you strike. Thud, clack, you strike. Thud. You do this 3 times. Then you stop. You wait. Your heart is pounding so hard you can hear the blood rushing in your ears. The digging stops. The silence that rushes back into the void is sudden and terrifying. Have they left? Did they hear something? Are they listening? You hold your breath. The air in the pocket is foul, thick with the smell of death and wet lime, but you do not exhale. You listen. Tap, tap, tap. It comes from above. 3 sharp strikes, deliberate, intelligent. It is a question. Is someone there? You sob, a dry, hacking convulsion that racks your body. It is the first time you have felt anything other than pain or numbness in days. You feel a surge of emotion so powerful it almost knocks you unconscious. They are there. They are listening. You are not alone in the dark. You lift your stone again. It feels lighter now, fueled by the hysteria of the moment. You strike the beam. Tap, tap, tap. The response is immediate, a muffled shout. It is unintelligible, just a low, warped vowel sound filtering through the mud. But it is a voice, a human voice. It is the most beautiful thing you have ever heard. It is sweeter than music, sweeter than water. Then the digging resumes. But the tempo has changed. It is no longer the steady, measured pace of a laborer doing a job. It is frantic. It is fast. Clack, clack, clack. Violent. Urgent. They are coming for you. The vibration in the floor increases. You can feel the blows raining down on the prison of debris. Dust begins to sift down from the ceiling of your pocket, coating your face, getting into your eyes. You don't care. Let the roof come down. Let the world shake. They found you. I am here, you scream in your mind. I am here. You keep tapping. You create a rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. You want them to know you are conscious. You want them to know you are fighting. You are a partner in your own rescue. You are guiding them in. The vibration grows stronger. You can hear the individual impacts now, the crunch of the rock shattering. You can hear the scrape of the shovel blade against stone. You can distinguish 2 diggers now, maybe 3. They are working in a team, rotating out. They are close.
But as the excitement fades, the reality of your condition returns. The adrenaline that allowed you to lift the stone burns off, leaving you weaker than before. Your arm drops. The stone rolls from your fingers. You cannot lift it again. The thirst returns, screaming. Your head spins. The carbon dioxide level is still high, and the exertion has used up your reserves. You lay your head back against the wet debris. You listen to the rhythm of the iron. It is a lullaby. Clack, clack, clack.
It is the sound of civilization returning to the wild. It is the sound of Rome. Order, engineering, persistence. You reach out and find Garo's hand again. It is cold and stiff. "They are coming, Garo," you whisper into the dark. "Do you hear them? They are bringing the light." You know he cannot hear you. You know he will not leave this hole. But you tell him anyway. You recount the progress. They are through the outer wall now. They are in the peristyle. They are cutting the timber. The noise becomes deafening. The structural integrity of your pocket is threatened by the violence of the rescue. A large stone dislodges from the ceiling and lands on your shin. You barely feel it. You are focused on the sound. You can hear voices now, real words. Watch the brace. Loose soil. Bring the lantern. Latin. Rough, low class, beautiful Latin. The language of the streets. The language of the living. "Here!" you try to croak again. "Down here!" You hear a pause in the digging. "Quiet," a voice commands. It is close, right above your head. "I heard something." You summon the last dregs of your energy. You cannot lift the stone. You cannot shout. You take your fingernails and scratch them against the wooden beam. Scritch, scritch, scritch. "There," the voice says, "under the main beam. Bring the pry bar." The sound of wood groaning, the screech of metal on timber. The pressure in the pocket shifts. The air moves. A draft, a tiny, miraculous current of fresh, cool air snakes through the darkness and hits your face. It smells of rain, of wet pine, of sweat. It smells of life. You inhale it greedily, your lungs expanding, the stale air rushing out. The darkness above you begins to change. It is no longer a solid wall of black. There is a seam, a crack, and through that crack a faint gray luminescence. It is not light, not yet. It is just a lessening of the dark. But to your eyes, starved for days, it is blinding.
You close your eyes against the glare. You are weeping freely now, your body shaking with the release of the tension. You are going to live. The floor is ruined. The villa is destroyed. The boy is dead. But you are going to live. "Easy now," the voice says, muffled but clear. "We're coming through. Watch the slide." The rhythm of the iron slows down. It becomes precise, gentle. Tap, pry, lift. They are dismantling your tomb, stone by stone. You lie still, listening to the music of the rescue, letting the sound of the pickaxe wash over you like a holy hymn. You wait for the hands of men to reach down into the earth and pull you back to the surface. You wait for the rebirth. The end of your internment does not begin with a fanfare, but with the groan of tortured wood. It is a sound deep within the throat of the ruin, a long, drawn-out complaint of fibers stretching beyond their limit. Above your face, how far you cannot tell, perhaps inches, perhaps feet, the heavy timber that has formed the roof of your coffin shifts. Dust rains down, a gritty curtain that coats your dry eyes and fills your open mouth. You do not blink, you do not cough. You are frozen, a small, trembling animal waiting for the predator to tear open the burrow. The rhythmic clack-clack of the pickaxe has stopped, replaced by the heavy, scraping sound of iron leverage. Someone is prying the world apart. You squeeze your eyes shut. The anticipation is a physical pain, sharper than the thirst. You are terrified of the opening. You have become a creature of the dark. The blackness is your skin now. The stale, lime-choked air is your breath. The idea of the outside, of vast, uncontained space, of searing light is suddenly horrific. You want to curl up. You want to stay in the stone womb where the silence is predictable. But the iron bar scrapes against the stone again, a shriek of metal that sets your teeth on edge. And then, with a wet, sucking sound of mud yielding to force, the seal is broken. It happens in an instant. A section of the debris field above you, a mixture of shattered roof tiles, wet clay, and splintered lathing, collapses upward and outward.
The pressure in the pocket changes violently. The vacuum is breached. And then, the pain. It is not physical trauma, but a visual assault. A shaft of light pierces the gloom. To a normal eye, it would be the dull gray light of a rainy morning. To you, whose pupils have been dilated to their maximum aperture for days, it is a supernova. It is a spear of blinding white violence that stabs directly into your brain. You scream, a ragged, airless sound, and throw your hands over your face. The light burns. It feels like hot sand poured into your sockets. It pulses red through the flesh of your palms, stripping away the comfort of the dark.
Then comes the air. It rushes in through the breach, a cold, heavy column of gas that hits your face like a physical blow. It smells of rain. It smells of wet wool, of pine resin, of unwashed men, of mud. It smells of life. It enters your lungs, and the shock of it makes you dizzy. It is too rich, too oxygenated. Your head spins, the world tilting on its axis. You gasp, choking on the freshness, your body rejecting the purity of it after days of breathing your own waste. "I see him!" The voice is a thunderclap. It is right there, just above you. It is raw, hoarse, and human. It vibrates in your chest. "Hand me the lantern! No, the rope! Get the beam!" More voices. Chaos. The rhythm of the rescue has dissolved into a frantic scramble. You can hear the scrabbling of boots on loose stone, the slide of gravel. You keep your hands over your eyes, peeking through the cracks between your fingers. The light is swirling with dust, a turbulent vortex of white and gray. In the center of the glare, a silhouette appears. It is a head, shoulders. A man is looking down into your grave. He is a dark cutout against the brightness, a shadow puppet of a giant. "Can you hear me?" the shadow bellows. You try to nod. Your neck is stiff, the muscles locked. You try to speak, but your tongue is a swollen slug in your mouth. You manage a croak. "Water!" "He's alive! Bring the skin!" The shadow descends. The man is climbing down into the hole. You feel the debris shift as his weight lands next to you. A hand grabs your shoulder. It is a rough hand, calloused and warm. The heat of it is shocking against your cold skin. It shakes you, not gently. "Look at me," the man commands. "Are you pinned?" You lower your hands slowly, squinting against the agony of the light. The man's face swims into focus. He is not an angel. He is a laborer. His face is smeared with mud, his beard is matted with rain, and his eyes are wide with the adrenaline of the dig. He looks terrified. He looks beautiful. You point to your legs. "Stone," you whisper. He looks down. He has a small oil lamp hooked to his belt, and he unclips it, shining it into the depths of the pocket. The yellow light washes over your lower body. You crane your neck to look. It is the first time you have seen your own body since the collapse. You wish you hadn't. Your legs are buried under a mound of wet clay and a large, jagged block of travertine marble. The tunic is torn, stained dark with dried blood and the black muck of the landslide. You look like you are half statue, half corpse, merging into the floor you created.
"It's the lintel," the man shouts up to the opening. "It's on his legs. I need the pry bar down here, now." He turns back to you. He grabs a leather flask from his belt and uncorks it. "Easy," he says, "just a drop." He tilts the flask. Water. Cool, sweet, impossible water. It hits your cracked lips and spills into your mouth. It tastes of leather and the river. It is the most intense sensation of your life. You gulp it, choking, coughing it back up. "Easy," I said. He pulls the flask away. "You'll drown yourself." You reach for it, your fingers clawing at his tunic. "More," you beg. "Please." "In a minute. We have to get this rock off you." Another man drops into the hole. The space is crowded now. The air is getting hot with their body heat. They're smelling of sweat and garlic. They position the iron bar under the block of marble. "On 3, the first man says. "You," he looks at you, "when we lift, you pull. Do you understand? You have to pull." You nod.
You brace your hands against the wet debris behind you. You gather the last scraps of your strength, scraping the bottom of the barrel of your will. 1, 2, 3, heave! The men grunt, the veins in their necks standing out in the lantern light. The iron bar bends, the marble block shifts. It groans, sliding up an inch. The pain is absolute. As the weight lifts, the blood rushes back into your crushed limbs. It feels like liquid fire pouring through your veins. It feels like your legs are being shredded by knives. You scream. It is a primal animal sound that tears your throat. You arch your back, thrashing in the mud. Pull! Pull now! You drag yourself backward. Your fingernails dig into the mud. You slide. Your legs come free. They feel heavy, useless, dragging behind you like dead weights. You collapse back against the wall, gasping, the world graying out at the edges. Got him, the second man pants. He drops the bar. The stone slams back down with a dull thud, right where your shins were a second ago. Clear the way. We're bringing him up. They grab you, one under the arms, one grabbing your belt. They are not gentle. They cannot afford to be. The hole is unstable. The earth is shifting above them. They hoist you up. Your head lollies back. And then you see him. As you are lifted, the light from the opening falls across the space where you were lying. It illuminates the corner. It illuminates the hand sticking out of the debris. The gray, still hand. "Garou!" You scream. You try to reach down. The boy is there!" The first man looks down. He sees the hand. He pauses, his face grim. He looks at the unstable roof, then at you. "Leave him," he says. His voice is flat. "He's gone." "No, bring him. He's sleeping." "He's cold, mate. He's been gone a long time. We have to go now." They pull you upward. You are rising. You are leaving the tomb. You are leaving the floor. You are leaving Garou in the dark with his masterpiece. You struggle, but you are weak as a kitten. They haul you up through the jagged opening, scraping your shoulders against the rocks. You emerge. The transition is shocking. You are pulled out of the earth and laid onto wet grass. The sky is above you, a vast, heaving ocean of gray clouds. It is raining, a cold, steady drizzle that washes the dust from your face. The air is moving, a wind that chills you instantly. You are surrounded by noise, men shouting, the braying of mules, the sound of tools hitting rock. You turn your head. You are on the hillside. The villa is gone. Where the elegant structure once stood, there is a scar of brown mud, a chaotic slide of earth and timber that runs down into the valley. You are lying on the edge of the ruin. People are running toward you. Someone throws a rough wool blanket over you. It scratches your skin, but the warmth is welcome. A woman is wiping your face with a cloth. "Is he the last one?" someone asks. "The last living," the man who pulled you out says. He is climbing out of the hole, wiping his muddy hands on his tunic. You stare up at the sky. It is too big. It is terrifyingly open. You feel like you are going to fall off the earth. You close your eyes, seeking the comfort of the dark, but the red glare of the sun behind the clouds is still there. You are safe. You are shattered. You open your mouth to taste the rain, and for the first time in days you weep, not from sadness, but from the sheer, overwhelming brutality of being alive. The mosaic is behind you, buried in the dark, and you are here in the blinding, noisy, painful world of men. You are sitting on the edge of the world, or so it feels. The ground beneath you is no longer the terrifying, shifting tectonic plate of the collapse, but the wet, grassy slope of the hillside. It is solid. It is cold. It is real. You are wrapped in a blanket of rough gray wool that smells of wet dog and wood smoke, a scratchy, heavy embrace that is the only thing keeping your shattering body together. You are shivering, a violent, rattling convulsion that starts in your marrow and shakes your teeth in your skull. It is not just the cold of the rain, though the rain is relentless, a freezing drizzle that soaks your hair and runs down your neck. It is the withdrawal from the adrenaline. It is the shock of the transition. You have been birthed from the stone womb of the earth back into the chaotic, noisy, blinding nursery of the living, and your body does not know how to process the sudden expansion of space. You stare at your hands. They are resting on your knees, dark shapes against the gray wool. They are not your hands. They are claws, caked in dried blood, limestone dust, and the black, greasy clay of the tomb. The fingernails are torn, the knuckles swollen and purple. You try to flex them, to make a fist, but the connection between your brain and your fingers is sluggish. They tremble independently of your will. These are the hands that just days ago, or was it years, were placing tesserae with the precision of a surgeon. These are the hands that smoothed the nucleus, that felt the grain of the marble, that built the geometry of the floor. Now they are ruined tools, blunted and broken by the crude work of survival. You rub them together, the friction creating a dull, dry heat that dissipates instantly in the wind. Someone offers you a cup. It is a wooden cup, rough-hewn and stained with wine. You take it with both hands, afraid you will drop it. Steam rises from the liquid. It is warm wine, watered down and spiced with honey. You bring it to your lips. The steam hits your face, softening the crust of dried mud on your cheeks. You drink. The liquid scalds your throat, a shocking, painful heat that burns all the way down to your stomach. It is the first warmth you have felt since the lamp died. It makes you nauseous. Your stomach, shrunken and filled with the acid of starvation, rebels against the richness. You gag, but you force it down. You need the heat. You need the sugar. You drink until the cup is empty, staring into the wooden bottom as if it holds the answers to why you are here and they are not. You lift your head. The movement is slow, your neck muscles stiff and protesting. You look back. You look at the thing that tried to eat you. The villa is gone. In your mind, during the long hours of the dark, you had imagined the house as damaged but standing. A room collapsed, a wall breached. You had imagined the structure still asserting its dominance over the landscape. But the reality is a devastation so absolute it defies comprehension. The mountain has not just damaged the villa, it has erased it. A massive scar of raw, brown earth tears down the hillside, a chaotic slurry of mud, uprooted pines, and boulders the size of wagons. It has plowed through the structure like a wave through a sandcastle. Where the triclinium stood, where you knelt and worshipped the geometry of the floor, there is nothing but a tangled heap of shattered timber and stone. The roof is gone. The walls are gone. The elegant peristyle columns are snapped like twigs and buried in the muck. The fountain is buried. The garden is a swamp. The only thing that remains to mark the site is a jagged section of the outer wall, standing knee-high, a broken tooth in the jaw of the disaster. You stare at the mound of debris where you were buried. It looks impossibly small. From the inside, it was a cathedral of darkness, a vast echoing chamber of suffering. From the outside, it is just a pile of rubbish, a confused jumble of tiles and beams. You realize with a sickening jolt how close you were to the surface. 10 feet, maybe 12. For days, you were dying of thirst just 12 feet away from the rain. You were hallucinating monsters while birds sang in the trees above you. The proximity of life makes the suffering feel cheap. It makes the tragedy feel like a cruel joke of engineering. And the floor, the masterpiece, the opus tessellatum. You close your eyes and see the pattern again, the black and white meander, the red rosette, the perfect level plane. It is down there. It is crushed. The millions of stones you placed, the weeks of back-breaking labor, the obsessive attention to detail, it is all ground to dust. The landslide has taken your order and turned it back into chaos. The stones have returned to the mountain. Nature has reclaimed the materials, indifferent to the art you imposed upon them. You feel a hollow ache in your chest that has nothing to do with your ribs. It is the grief of the maker. You realize now that you are not a creator of eternal things. You are just a man rearranging dust for a little while before the wind blows it away.
The activity around the ruin shifts. The shouting dies down. The frantic energy of the rescue dissipates, replaced by a somber, respectful quiet. The men are gathering near the hole they cut to pull you out. They are no longer using pickaxes. They are using their hands. They are moving stones gently. You know what they are doing. You want to look away. You want to stare at the gray horizon, at the mist clinging to the valley floor. But you cannot. You are the witness. You owe them this. They bring Lucius out first. It takes 4 men. They carry him on a makeshift stretcher made of 2 cloaks tied to poles. He is covered, thank the gods, but you can see the shape of him. He is small. Death has shrunk him. The heavy clay has pressed him flat. One of his arms hangs loose from the side of the stretcher, swinging slightly with the rhythm of the bearer's steps. His hand is white, the fingers curled in a final spasm. It is the hand that held the lamp. It is the hand that mixed the mortar. You watch them carry him past you, toward a cart waiting on the track. The wheels of the cart creak as they load him. You feel nothing. No tears, no sharp pang of loss, just a vast, vibrating numbness. Your emotional reservoir was drained in the dark. You are empty. Then they go back for Garo. This takes longer. The debris has shifted. They have to shore up the sides of the hole. You watch them work, your eyes tracing the line of the timber they are using. You critique their leverage. You judge the angle of the prop. It is a defense mechanism. If you focus on the mechanics of the excavation, you do not have to think about the boy. You do not have to think about the bread he smelled or the sun he felt on his face in the dark. When they finally lift him out, he looks like a broken doll. He is covered in the gray dust of the lime, a ghost emerging from the underworld. He is curled in the fetal position, the position he died in, holding your hand. Rigor mortis has frozen him that way. They cannot straighten him out. They have to wrap him in a sheet as he is, a bundle of tragic geometry. They carry him past you. The wind lifts the corner of the sheet, exposing a patch of his tunic. It is the blue tunic, the one his mother made him. You stare at the blue cloth until it disappears into the back of the wagon. "We need to move you," a voice says. You look up. It is the man who pulled you out. He has washed his face, but his eyes are red-rimmed and exhausted. He looks at you with a mixture of pity and discomfort. You are the survivor. You are the miracle, but you are also a reminder of what they didn't save. You are the one who lived when the others didn't, and that makes you strange to them. You are marked by the earth. "Can you stand?" he asks. You shake your head. You cannot feel your legs. The pain that flared when the stone was lifted has settled into a deep, throbbing ache that pulses in time with your heart, but the muscles are useless. The nerves are stunned. You are a statue from the waist down. "Right. Grab his legs," the man orders. 2 other laborers step forward. They smell of sweat and wet wool. They slide their hands under your knees and your armpits. They lift you. You gasp as your broken body shifts, the bones grinding together. The world spins, gray sky, brown mud, green trees, a kaleidoscope of misery. They carry you toward the second cart. It is a simple ox cart filled with straw. They lower you into it. The straw is dry and prickly, but it is softer than the stone floor. You sink into it. You lie on your back, looking up at the sky. The rain is falling harder now. It taps against your face, washing the last of the tomb away. You can hear the oxen snorting, the jingle of the harness. The driver clicks his tongue. Hup! The cart lurches forward. The
The wooden wheels grind against the stones of the path. You turn your head to the side, forcing your eyes open for one last look. The ruin of the villa is receding. The scar on the hillside looks like a wound that will never heal. The rain is already turning the site into a mudslide, washing away the evidence of the excavation. Soon the hole you were trapped in will be filled. The section of wall will fall. The grass will grow back. The sheep will graze there. No one will know that down there, deep in the dark, there is a perfect mosaic floor, a masterpiece of black and white stone, holding the bones of a house that died. You close your eyes. The rhythm of the cart takes over. Bump, creak, bump, creak. It is a new rhythm. It is not the rhythm of the hammer. It is not the rhythm of the breathing in the dark. It is the rhythm of departure. You are moving away from the center of the world. You are going back to the city, to the noise, to the living. But you know with a cold, heavy certainty that a part of you is not on the cart. A part of you is still down there, sitting in the dark, holding Garo's hand, waiting for the sun that will never come. You pull the blanket over your face, shutting out the gray light, and for the first time, you allow yourself to surrender to the exhaustion that has been waiting to claim you. The long sleep begins. The years have sanded you down, wearing away the sharp edges of the memory, just as the sea wears away the glass it tosses onto the shore. You are an old man now. The beard that frames your jaw is no longer the dark, sweat-matted tangle of the laborer, but a thin white mist that catches the crumbs of your morning bread. You sit on a terrace overlooking the Bay of Naples, a cup of watered wine resting on the knee that never quite healed. The leg is a barometer. It aches when the rain comes, a deep, dull throb in the marrow that speaks of damp earth and crushing weight. But today, the sky is a brilliant, hard blue, and the pain is just a quiet hum, a companion you have grown so used to that its absence would feel like a loss.
You do not work. You have not held a trowel or a hammer in 30 years. The nerve damage in your hands, a legacy of the crushing pressure of the landslide, left you with a tremor that makes the precision of the mosaicist impossible. You cannot place a stone without it dancing in the mortar. You cannot cut a cube without shattering it. The trade that defined you, that gave your hands a language and your life a geometry, was taken from you in the dark. Now you are a pensioner, living on the charity of a distant nephew and the small savings of a life cut short. You spend your days watching the water, watching the boats cut white lines across the blue, lines that vanish as quickly as they are drawn. The terrace where you sit is paved with simple terracotta piles. They are warm under your sandals, soaking up the heat of the Campanian sun. They are rough, unglazed, and uneven. Sometimes, when the house is quiet and the cicadas are buzzing in the olive trees, you find yourself staring at them. You trace the grout lines with your eyes. You look for the imperfections. You see where the mason was lazy, where the clay was too wet, where the angle drifted. You critique the floor with the ghost of your old skill. It is a reflex you cannot kill. You are always building, always correcting, always seeking the level plane in a world that is fundamentally crooked. But it is not this floor that occupies your dreams. It is the other one, the one that never saw the sun. Sometimes, in the drowsy heat of the afternoon, the smell comes back to you. It is not the smell of the lemon groves or the salt spray. It is a phantom scent, sharp and chemical, the smell of wet lime and crushed marble. It rises from the back of your throat, a sensory hallucination that brings the darkness rushing back. In that moment, the bright Italian sun feels like a lie. The warmth on your skin feels thin, a veneer over a deep, abiding cold. You close your eyes, and instantly, you are back there. You are back in the pocket. You are back in the silence. It is strange, but the terror has faded. The panic that once clawed at your throat, the desperation that made you lick the walls for moisture, that has all burned away. What remains is the stillness. You think of the villa often. You know that the mountain has claimed it completely now. The scar on the hillside is greened over.
Grass and scrub oak cover the place where the triclinium stood. Roots have likely grown down through the soil, wrapping around the broken columns, blindly seeking the same water you sought. But down deep, below the roots, below the worms, below the shifting mud, the floor is still there. You imagine it perfectly. The opus tessellatum, the black and white meander pattern, the red rosette in the center. It is untouched. No foot has ever walked on it. No wine has ever been spilled on it. No sandal has ever worn down the sharp edges of the tesserae. It is the only perfect thing you ever made. All your other works, the bathhouses in Rome, the walkways in Ostia, they have been worn smooth by millions of feet. They have cracked, faded, and been patched by lesser hands. But the villa floor, it is pristine. It is preserved in the amber of the earth, a masterpiece seen only by the dark.
You think of Garo, the boy who never grew old. In your mind, he is still 17. He is still holding the blue tunic, his face smeared with dust. He is the guardian of the floor. You wonder with a whimsical, senile curiosity if his bones are still there, curled around the memory of your hand. You wonder if the limestone of his skeleton has merged with the limestone of the mortar, if he has physically become part of the house. It is not a horrific thought anymore. It feels right. He was an apprentice. Now he is part of the foundation. He has achieved a permanence you will never have. You lift your wine cup. Your hand shakes, the ripples in the red liquid mimicking the waves in the bay. You take a sip. It is sour, but it cuts the dust in your throat. You look at the young men working on the wall down the road. They are laughing, shouting insults, their muscles moving fluidly under their skin. They are building a retaining wall. You watch them mix the mortar. You watch them slap it onto the stones. They are careless. They are fast. They do not know that the earth is waiting. They do not know that every stone they place is just a temporary loan from the mountain. You want to warn them. You want to tell them to respect the gravity, to fear the slope. But you say nothing. You are just an old man muttering into his wine. They would not listen. They are immortal, just as you were. The sun begins to dip lower, turning the sea from blue to a deep, bruised purple. The air cools. The stone beneath your feet begins to release the day's heat. This is the time you dread and love. The transition, the twilight. It is the time when the boundaries between the worlds grow thin. You lean your head back against the rough plaster of the wall. You close your eyes. The sound of the sea recedes, replaced by a low, rhythmic thrumming in your ears. Thump, thump. Is it your heart? Or is it the sound of the pickaxe eternally chipping away at the rock? You listen. It is a comforting rhythm now. It is the sound of rescue. It is the sound of hope. You drift. The darkness behind your eyelids is not empty. It is filled with geometry. You see the lines connecting the stars. You see the grid of the universe. You are floating above the floor, looking down at the pattern. It is glowing. The black stones are obsidian. The white stones are diamonds. The red center is a ruby heart, pulsing slowly. It is beautiful. It is finished. Master? The voice is a whisper carried on a draft of cool air. You smile. You do not open your eyes. You know who it is. I am here, Garo, you think. Is the line straight? The boy asks. Yes, you answer in the silence of your mind. It is straight. It is level. It is true. Good, he says. Then we can rest. The fatigue washes over you, a heavy, warm tide. It is not the exhaustion of the struggle, but the exhaustion of a long life lived in the shadow of a single event. You are tired of carrying the survivor's guilt. You are tired of being the only one who remembers the smell of the wet lime in the dark. You are ready to lay down the burden. You feel the cup slip from your fingers. It hits the terracotta tiles with a dull thud, spilling the wine. A dark stain spreads across the floor, looking like blood. looking like a shadow. You do not reach for it. You do not care. The stain is just another part of the pattern. The sun sets. The air turns cold. But you are not cold. You are walking down a long, dark tunnel. At the end of it, there is a room. The lamps are lit. The oil is burning with a steady, golden flame. The tools are laid out on the table. The hammer, the hardy, the trowel. They are clean. They are waiting. Lucius is there, mixing the mortar. Garrow is there, sorting the stones. They look up as you enter. They are smiling. "You are late," Lucius says. "I had to walk the long way," you reply. You step into the room. The floor is under your feet. It is solid. It is perfect. You kneel down, your knees no longer aching. You pick up a tessera. It is black marble, cool and sharp. You look at the empty space in the border. You press the stone into the wet lime. It fits. It fits perfectly. The darkness of the terrace merges with the darkness of the dream. The ghost of the floor becomes the reality. You are no longer an old man by the sea. You are the master mosaicist, and you have finally returned to the work that was interrupted. You close the gap. You finish the design. And in the silence of the stone, you find the sleep that has evaded you for 40 years. The mountain holds you now, and this time it is gentle.